It was a gray, rainy Thursday in late October when Nathan first arrived at my doorstep, suitcase in hand, shoulders hunched against the cold drizzle. Portland was quiet that day, wrapped in that kind of slow sadness only fall brings. And honestly, so was I. My name's Claire Bennett. I'm 34, divorced, and had spent the last 2 years figuring out how to be okay alone. My life was neat, controlled, and silent. The kind of silence that grows roots in the walls of your home. I wasn't looking for company. I wasn't looking for him. Nathan was supposed to be just a guest. That's all. He was my younger brother's old friend from college. They'd lost touch but reconnected recently. Nathan had taken a short-term contract job here in the city and needed a place to stay for 2 weeks. My brother called, guilt-tripped me, said he'd vouch for him. I agreed, half listening, barely thinking. I didn't even remember what Nathan looked like, but when I opened that door and saw him standing there, tall, lean, wearing a dark hoodie that clung to him from the rain, something inside me stirred. And I couldn't quite name it. He was younger than me, but not by much. 30, maybe? 31. His hair was slightly messy, beard trimmed, eyes, a calm gray that felt too familiar for someone I just met. He smiled, soft and unsure, and I remember feeling nervous. Which was strange. I hadn't felt nervous around a man in a long time. "Claire, right?" he said, and I nodded, suddenly aware of the tight black sweater I was wearing and how it hugged a little more than I intended. I led him inside, gave the usual tour. Guest bedroom, bathroom down the hall. Don't mind the creaky floorboards near the kitchen. He listened quietly, nodded, and thanked me. There was something about the way he looked around, like he wasn't just seeing the house, but feeling it. Like he knew silence the way I did. That first night, we barely spoke. He ordered takeout. Ate in his room, and I poured myself a glass of wine and tried to watch a movie I'd already seen twice. But I couldn't stop thinking about him, a stranger now living under my roof. I wondered what he was like when he wasn't being polite. I wondered why I cared. Over the next few days, Nathan stayed in his lane, worked from his laptop, took quiet phone calls, made his own coffee. He wasn't loud, wasn't messy. He respected space. And I realized I hadn't had that kind of energy in my home in a long time. The kind that's present, but not overbearing. Still, there were moments. Small ones. Like when I caught him watching me from the hallway when I laughed too loud at my phone. Or when our hands accidentally brushed while passing each other a dish. We didn't say anything. Not then. But the silence between us had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was loaded with tension, curiosity, something neither of us wanted to name just yet. At night, I'd lie in bed and think about him just 2 rooms away. I didn't even know why. It wasn't just attraction. It was something deeper, older, like I'd known him in another life. Or maybe it was just loneliness wearing a mask. Either way, he was a guest in my home. But it was already starting to feel like he belonged to something more. And even though nothing had happened, not yet. I could feel it coming. Something was unfolding, and I wasn't sure I was ready, but I wanted it anyway. Asterisk, the days passed slowly, but not without tension, the kind that hums under the surface. It's quiet but constant, like a song you can't turn off. Nathan and I fell into an easy rhythm around the house. It wasn't just a guest anymore. He was part of the space, woven into the sounds and silences of my home. I'd hear his footsteps in the morning, the soft clink of a coffee mug, his voice low on a call. And somehow, all of it became oddly comforting. But what caught me most were the glances. Those quick little looks that lingered a second too long. The way his eyes would find me when he thought I wasn't looking. The way I'd catch myself straightening my hair before stepping into the kitchen. We didn't flirt, not openly. We're both too careful for that. But there was something in the air between us, something slow-burning and quiet. Like the way a candle melts into its wick. It was on the 5th night during a thunderstorm that the line between us began to blur. The power went out around 8 p.m., plunging the house into darkness except for the soft flicker of candles I had tucked away in a drawer for emergencies. I lit a few, placed them around the kitchen, and sat at the table with a cup of tea, pretending not to notice when Nathan came to join me. He looked different in that dim light, softer, maybe even a little vulnerable. He pulled out a chair, sat across from me, and for the first time since he arrived, he talked. Really talked? We spoke for hours about work, old friendships, heartbreak. I told him about my ex-husband, how we drifted apart, how being in love doesn't always mean being seen. He nodded, like he understood in a way most people didn't. Then he told me about his last relationship. Her name was Brooke. He said he thought she was the one, but she betrayed him, slept with someone she worked with. He said it broke something. In him, something he wasn't sure would ever fully heal. I watched him talk, his voice low, steady, but heavy with pain. And all I wanted to do was reach across the table and touch his hand, just to say, "Me too." I didn't, not yet. The storm raged outside, thunder echoing through the house, but we stayed in that little bubble of candlelight, our words getting softer, more personal, more real. He told me he hadn't felt this comfortable in months. I told him I hadn't let someone in like this since before my divorce. We were two people scarred by love, sitting across from each other like we were standing at the edge of something we didn't know how to name. At one point, we both stopped speaking and just looked at each other. Not awkwardly, not nervously, just looked. I don't know how long it lasted, but I remember the feeling like it was still in my bones. Warm, intimate, charged. He didn't reach for me. I didn't move toward him. But something shifted that night. After he went to bed, I stood alone in the kitchen and whispered his name once to myself, just to hear how it sounded in the quiet, to feel what it might mean. That night, I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay in bed thinking of him just down the hall, wondering if he felt it too. The slow, silent pull drawing us closer. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was something dangerous, and something I knew neither of us could ignore for much longer. It was a quiet Sunday morning. One of those slow ones where the light pours in through the windows just right, soft and golden. I was standing in the kitchen, still in my robe, trying to pour my second cup of coffee when I clumsily knocked the mug over and spilled hot coffee all down the front of my blouse. I let out a sharp gasp, more from surprise than pain, and grabbed a towel. Before I could even turn around, Nathan was there. He moved fast, without saying a word, taking the towel from my hand like it was second nature and gently dabbing at the front of my shirt. His fingers brushed the curve of my waist, barely, but enough to make me still. My breath caught. It was such a small, accidental touch, but my body felt it like a spark. I looked up at him, and he was already looking at me. His hand froze. His eyes searched mine, and for a second, we didn't say a thing. The air between us shifted, heavier, warmer, undeniable. "Sorry," he whispered, stepping back. But he didn't look away. I didn't either. There was no more pretending, no more hiding in silences. We both felt that invisible pull, like gravity, like something older than either of us, something we'd been circling around for days without realizing how close we were to falling. He turned away after a moment and went to the sink, rinsing out the towel like nothing happened. I stood there, still holding my breath, heart thudding like a drum in my chest. Later that day, we took a walk around the neighborhood. The storm from a few days ago had cleared, leaving behind crisp air and a sky that looked like a watercolor painting. We didn't talk much, just walked side by side, shoulders almost touching, hands close but not quite brushing. And yet I could feel him, every inch of him. I caught him glancing at me, and each time he'd quickly look away, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to feel what he was clearly feeling. But I felt it too. God, I felt it. That night we ended up sitting on the back porch. I brought out a blanket and a bottle of red wine, and without saying anything, he wrapped the blanket around both of us. His shoulder brushed mine. Our legs touched. He leaned in just a little bit more than before. The wind was cool, but between us, it was anything but. We talked about everything and nothing: childhood memories, favorite places, the things we missed about being younger. And then I asked him, softly, "Why did you really come here, Nathan?" He was quiet for a moment, staring out at the dark sky. Then he said I needed to get away from everything. My life was noise, and I wanted silence. But then I got here, and it wasn't the silence that helped. It was you. He turned to look at me then, fully, deeply. You make it easy, too. Breathe, that was it. That was the moment. I didn't think. I didn't need to. I leaned in. Or maybe he did. Our lips met slowly, hesitantly, like we were both afraid of what might happen if we gave in. But once we did, it was soft and warm and deep. My fingers slid up to his jaw. His hand moved to my waist, that same place he touched earlier that morning, but this time it wasn't an accident. This time it was everything. We kissed for what felt like forever. And when we finally pulled back, there was no awkwardness, no apologies, just truth. In our eyes, in our breath, in the way we stayed close, saying nothing, knowing everything had changed. This wasn't just a passing spark anymore. It was a fire we couldn't pretend to put out. Asterisk after that first kiss. Everything between us shifted, but we didn't talk about it, not in the clear light of day. We went back to our routines like nothing had happened, but something had. Every time I passed Nathan in the hallway, I could feel it in the air, the tension, the awareness, the pull. We didn't rush anything. We didn't have to. The kisses became more frequent, but always in the quiet late at night, standing too, close in the kitchen on the back porch when the world felt still. We were adults, and we both knew this wasn't some silly crush. This was deeper, slower. We were falling carefully, like people who had been hurt before and knew the cost of falling too fast. He would brush a strand of hair from my face, and I'd feel it in my stomach. I'd find a note from him next to my coffee mug in the morning, just a small message. Like, "You looked beautiful last night," or "You make this place feel like home." I kept every single one of them in the drawer next to my bed. But for all the passion we shared, there was still this unspoken fear between us. I'd lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling, wondering what exactly this was. Was he staying because of me? Or was I just a soft place to land? I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to break the spell. He was supposed to stay for 2 weeks. He never left, and I never asked why. Maybe I didn't want to know the answer. During the day, we tried to act normal. We made dinners together, watched movies on the couch. Sometimes he'd sit behind me, his arms around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder, and I'd think, maybe this is what peace feels like. But real love is never simple. It's never just laughter and kisses. It's old wounds, doubts, fears that whisper in the quiet. And both of us had plenty of those. There were moments when I caught him lost, in thought, staring at his phone, eyes distant. I didn't ask. And when I got texts from friends asking if I was seeing someone new, I ignored them. What was I supposed to say? That I was falling for a man who wasn't mine? A man who came into my home by accident, but stayed in my heart on purpose. We were walking a fine line between comfort and danger, between healing and hurting. Some nights after he touched me, kissed me like he was afraid I might disappear, I'd lie next to him and wonder, is this real for him? Or is this just a chapter he'll close when he's ready to move on? We never said the word love. Not once, not even in whispers. But it was there in the way he held me when I cried during an old movie. In the way I waited for him to come home like he was already mine. I think we were both afraid that naming it would make it fragile. So instead, we let it bloom in silence. But deep down, I knew something had to give. Love isn't meant to live in shadows. And as much as I wanted to stay in that soft, sweet in-between space, I could feel the storm building. We were two people pretending not to need more clinging, to stolen moments like they were enough. But love, real love, demands more than quiet glances and careful touches, and whether we were ready or not, the truth was coming. It was a Thursday evening when everything changed, the kind of night that felt too quiet, like the air was holding its breath. Nathan was unusually tense. I noticed it the moment he walked through the door. His shoulders were tight, jaw clenched, eyes not quite meeting mine. He kissed me like he wasn't fully there, and I felt something was wrong. We had become so connected, so in tune, that I could feel the shift in him before he even said a word. I didn't push right away. I made dinner. We sat at the table like usual, but the silence between us wasn't warm anymore. It was cold. Distant, I reached across and touched his hand, and he flinched barely, but enough. "Nathan," I said softly, "what's going on?" Kay and his eyes met mine then, and for the first time I saw guilt sitting behind them, like a shadow. And that's when the secret came out slowly, painfully, like ripping off skin. He had a fiancée. Her name was Emily. They weren't broken up. They were on a break. She lived back in Chicago. She didn't know he was staying with me. My chest tightened as the words left his mouth, each one cutting deeper than the last. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. The man I had let into my home, into my bed, into my heart was someone else's. He said it started as an escape. She had cheated a year ago, he said, and he hadn't trusted her since. But he hadn't left her either. Not fully. When he came here, he thought it would be temporary, a break from the noise, like he told me. He didn't expect us. He didn't expect to fall for me, but I did, he said, voice trembling. "Claire, I fell for you. This wasn't planned. This wasn't a game." My heart ached because I believed him. That was the worst part. I believed him. Every touch, every look. Every night he held Mayette, all felt real. And now I had to face the ugly truth that it had all existed under a lie. I stood up, unable to look at him, and walked to the window. Rain had started falling outside, soft, steady, like the world was crying with me. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just stood there, silent as everything inside me cracked. He came up behind me, gently touching my shoulder. I turned around, tears stinging my eyes. "Should have told me," I said, voice barely a whisper. "I never got the choice. You took that from me." He looked shattered, like a man who'd lost everything, and maybe he had. "I want you," he said, "not her." I didn't know it until but it was too late. Trust doesn't come back easy once it's broken. I told him I needed space. I needed time. He nodded slowly, then walked down the hall to the guest room, the same room he came 2 weeks ago. When he was just a guest, I laid in my bed that night, alone for the first time since he arrived, staring at the ceiling and wondering how love could feel so beautiful and so cruel at the same time. Part of me wanted to forgive him. Part of me wanted to forget I ever met him. But most of all, I wanted the truth to stop hurting. Because even after all of it, I still loved him. And that was the hardest truth of all. The next morning felt quiet in a different way, not the soft, warm kind of quiet we used to share, but the heavy silence of something broken. I woke up to the smell of coffee his way, of saying he was still here, still hoping. I walked into the kitchen and found him there, sitting at the table, his eyes tired, like he hadn't slept. Neither had I. We didn't speak at first. Just stared at each other across the space where so many mornings had begun with shy smiles and easy touches. Now, the distance between us felt like miles. I sat down slowly, still unsure of what I wanted. To say he started first, his voice low, rough. "I called Emily," he said. "I told her it's over. For real this time. I should have done it before I ever came here. I was a coward. But I'm not going back. That chapter's done." His eyes locked on mine. "Claire, I'm in love with you. And I'm not asking for you to forgive me right now. It's not you to know the truth. All of it." I listened, heart pounding, torn between anger and longing. It would have been easier if he hadn't looked at me like that, like I was his. Home, like I was the reason he breathed easier. I told him I needed time. He nodded, stood up, and began packing his things. Watching him move around the house, touching all the little spaces we'd shared, was like watching a dream fade in real time. When he paused at the door and turned back to look at me, I didn't say anything. I just let him walk away. And for 3 weeks, I didn't hear from him. The silence hurt in a way I wasn't prepared for. I'd gotten used to Himmy's voice in the morning, the way he laughed, how he made my home feel alive again. I hated him for not telling me the truth, but I hated how much I missed him more. I tried to distract myself, took long walks, called old friends, even tried going on a date, but nothing felt right. No one else made me feel the way he did. No one made me laugh like that or think like that, or feel like I was actually seen. One night I found myself in the kitchen, pouring wine, standing in the exact spot where he first kissed me, and it hit me. I didn't just miss him. I loved him. 2 days later, I found a letter in the mailbox, no name on the envelope, just my name in his handwriting. I opened it right there on the porch. It wasn't long, just a few lines. I'll always regret not telling you the truth from the start, but I'll never regret loving you. If you ever feel the same, I'll be waiting. Nathan sat on the steps, holding the letter, heart pounding. And then I got in my car. I didn't even grab a jacket. I drove straight to this small apartment. Address he had scribbled on the back of the envelope. When he opened the door, he looked like he didn't believe I was real. I didn't say a word. I just stepped forward and kissed him. The kind of kiss that says, I'm still angry, I'm still hurt, but I still want you. That night, we didn't fix everything. But we held each other like we both knew we had something worth fighting for. Love isn't perfect. It's messy and complicated and sometimes deeply unfair. But when it's real, when it's honest, it stays. It finds its way back, even after the lies, even after the silence. And somehow, in the middle of all the pain, Nathan and I found our way back to each other, not just as lovers, but as something deeper to souls who met by chance, us, and chose to stay.